Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to another 80s Monday here with a film which, man, my opinion on this one really did change over the years. For the better, though. And I will explain why as I recently sat down and rewatched Masters of the Universe from 1987 starring Dolph Lundgren, Courtney Cox, and Robert Duncan McNeil. Of course, at the time, I knew Lundgren pretty much just from Rocky IV. I don't think I'd seen him in anything else yet by this point. Courtney Cox, I only dimly knew from Misfits of Science, a show that I think was only on for like a single season or two. And McNeil I actually hadn't known at all, but later I did from Star Trek Voyager, and now as a producer and director of shows such as Resident Alien. But this is based on the He-Man and the Masters of the Universe cartoon of the 80s, and the synopsis is as follows. The heroic warrior He-Man battles against the evil Lord Skeletor and his armies of darkness for control of Castle Grayskull. Now that's kind of just like the overall synopsis of He-Man in general, but yeah, this film is quite different. It really kind of departs from that a bit. Now, I remember seeing this as a kid and thinking it was kind of fun, but really lame in some ways. One reason being because it was so different from the cartoon, because they didn't spend much time on Eternia, the planet where He-Man and all of these adventures take place. And as the main storyline in this takes place on Earth, which is where our characters played by Cox and McNeil come into play. As a reminder for those unfamiliar, the sorceress is captured, the battle is lost, and while trying to figure out how to rescue her, our heroes come across Gwildor, played by Billy Barty, who is to blame for this because of a device he created called the Cosmic Key, which can be used to kind of travel through space and time. It was used to get into the castle by Skeletor. Now he does have another Cosmic Key, though, and upon them trying to use it to rescue the sorceress, rather than let Skeletor's minions kind of acquire it and take control of it as well, they end up needing to escape, and they randomly end up on Earth. Now the key is lost, and He-Man, Man-at-Arms, Teela, and Gwildor now need to track it down and use it to find a way to get back to Eternia and save the sorceress. Now this is where Cox and McNeil come in, as two teenage lovers who find the key, and upon realizing it makes sounds similar to a synthesizer, McNeil, who is in a band as the keyboard player, decides to take it with him to his sound check for his band with Cox in tow. But aside from just discovering you can make these tones, he accidentally activates it, which is detected by Skeletor's minions, who track it to kind of like head to confront He-Man and the others, who they figured are the ones who must have activated it. Now these two are kind of mixed up in this whole situation with our heroes needing to regroup after getting separated and stay alive. Along with them, mixed up in this is a cop played by James Tolkien of Back to the Future and Top Gun fame, among other works. He was kind of called in after one of the attacks to find out what had happened, but obviously he doesn't believe any of the stories that McNeil is telling him. He kind of gives us this this grounded and belligerent grown-up point of view, and some comedy to kind of go along with it. So they need to get the key from the kids, while also protecting them, keeping them safe so they can keep it away from Skeletor, try to get back to Eternia to rescue the sorceress, while random confrontations and battles kind of happen throughout. So it's a big departure from the cartoon, but eventually things do wrap up. You know, they get back to Eternia, defeat Skeletor and his army, and they end up saving the sorceress. But first off, the overall feel for this. This is very heavy 80s sci-fi fantasy. We've got blasters and swords and flying vehicles and magical powers, portals to other worlds, and we're all along for the ride with these teenagers and this cop kind of keeping things relatable to us as the audience members. Now, it also has some goofy moments in it, some crazy costumes and production design, but it also has a wildly triumphant score kind of pounding throughout. But here's the thing, you know, upon this recent rewatch, I really got into this one. You know, it's very family friendly, of course, and it has some cheesy moments, and the blaster and gunplay is completely unrealistic compared to what they try to do with films these days. And it has some, you know, kind of out of place fourth wall breaks and a super sappy ending with a post-credit stinger, which ended up amounting to nothing. But none of that really hurt the film for me on this viewing. And I think I know why. I'm now decades away from watching that He-Man cartoon. You know, at the time there were differences, you know, when I first saw it when I was a kid that really stuck out to me, being a fan of the show and of the toys, such as having no Orko, a very comedic character from the show. Only one of the recognizable bad guy besides Skeletor and Evelyn, and that being Beastman. But even their designs are very different because those costume designs had some major changes, similar to how like the X-Men kind of updated their look for the films, but even more so in this case. A lot of them just looked so completely different. We have a lot less swordplay than I wanted, especially from He-Man in particular, who was often using blasters, and He-Man also had a lot less strength. In the show, it's like a major factor from what I remembered at the time, but in this case it seemed like an afterthought. And very little of it took place on Eternia, instead being on Earth. I just wanted it to be closer to what that cartoon was when I was a kid. But now, so much of that had kind of removed me at the time from the film that even though I enjoyed it overall, it was a little lackluster, kind of like saying, well, they kind of did it, that kind of feel, but I was ultimately let down, especially in that we never did get a sequel. Back then, I would have liked to have had at least some more time on Eternia, a place I was familiar with from the show, both in the location itself as well as how our characters lived there, rather than being in a place which I was so familiar with these characters kind of being in this like fish out of water kind of situation for most of the film. We even got this strange scene thrown in that stuck out to me when I was a kid, where Teela was grossed out about the fact that she was eating meat, which I kept thinking, I know she must have eaten meat in the show. I don't recall anything about them on the show being vegetarian. Why is this scene here? Little bits like that had always stuck out back then. But now, decades after last even seeing that show, I had pretty much only dim memories of the show in mind when doing this rewatch. Very dim and distant, so I kind of took this movie in an entirely different way. I'm really accepting it for what it was, which was a really fun and vibrant 80s sci-fi fantasy film, filled with some bits of humor, lots of action and effects, a budget which, while slim, and I know they had several cuts and production issues, they used it very well, providing a great mix of immersive locations both in the Eternia scenes and the ones on Earth, even though when I was a kid I kind of wanted more time on Eternia. It's definitely a fun sci-fi fantasy action kind of film with a loud color palette, very pounding and triumphant score throughout, which brings both excitement where needed as well as some really endearing movements within. And I actually even got some chills on the iconic I Have the Power line, which was, you throw all that together, made this one surprisingly, after all these years, more than worth checking out. And speaking of checking out, thanks for checking out my quick little throwback video here for Masters of the Universe. I really think it is a decent look back, a lot of fun, and the more removed one is from that original He-Man cartoon, I think the more they will enjoy it. Just keep in mind it is dated. There are some effects like this whipping scene which are very bad. And ultimately it is a family-friendly sci-fi fantasy action-adventure film, so don't expect anything too serious or highly polished. Just go in looking for a fun time and you may find it. Anyways, that's all I got for this one. At the time of this video, this is no longer on streaming, but it was just there recently, so it seems to be one of those that kind of hops on and off services. So check out that Just Watch application on your phone to see when it may be popping up somewhere else. And before signing off, what about you? What are your thoughts on this film? Sound off in the comments. Did you like it back in the day if you saw it when you were a kid? Have you seen it recently? Has your opinion changed at all? That's all I got for this one. And I will say see you in the next one, but maybe I'll do the little He-Man thing and say, good journey. See you later.